Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. This is the BP NFL live stream. It is me, Joey P. Joe Pisapia. With me is the Undertaker himself, Andrew Erickson, and you hanging out with us, talking a little ball for Week 14. Andrew Erickson, we got a lot of fun games. A fun Thursday night game. I know Boggs and I are going to be doing a show in, about an hour from now, previewing that. So we have everything getting ready to go on the Thursday night football front, getting ahead of the game. But before we get ahead of the games, Andrew, I want to talk about Monday night. Number one, I want to talk about Jameis Winston and how entertained I was by by Jameis Winston, period. The graphic of Jameis Winston playing with the football and doing his weird shtick there, the pregame clips, the postgame, the actual play itself. But my bone that I must pick is with Jerry Jeudy. I did this on the Fantasy Pros live stream too. I want to get your take because I lost my mind about this. I haven't seen this Jerry Jeudy since Alabama, probably. I mean, I haven't seen that guy in a long time. And Jerry Jeudy went out there and had an incredible game. The effort level that guy showed was unbelievable. And all I kept thinking about, where has that been the last few years with the Broncos? I haven't seen that effort level out of Jerry Jeudy. So revenge games are a thing. And we've got a big one coming up this week with Kirk Cousins I want to dive into with you. But first, what do you make of the Jerry Jeudy performance on Monday night? It was kind of stunning and at the same time infuriating.
I mean, I think that Jameis Winston is just showing us that he is a quarterback that can unlock receivers' potential, right? And it's not like this is the first time we've seen it work for him. The minute that he steps in, all of these receivers are popping off. Guys that we knew were talented. Elijah Moore, talented player. Cedric Tillman, a talented player. And then once that you make the quarterback change, what do you know? The talent turns into actual production. So I think that this is just one of the examples of Jerry Jeudy kind of finding a quarterback that fits his style. And I mean, kind of like in a similar ilk to a Matthew Stafford, where Jameis Winston is a fantasy elevator, right? He takes the receivers around him that, hey, like they've flashed at points, but never could be consistent. And then we throw in 55 dropbacks every single week with air yards all over the place. Well, you're eventually going to find yourself into production. And that's the case here with Jerry Jeudy. So clearly the Browns believed in Jeudy because they traded for him. They signed him to a really good contract when it was kind of looked at as, man, like this is weird. But this is really another example of the market kind of being wrong about some of these wide receiver contracts where like Jacoby Myers, like what? Christian Kirk, what? Jerry Jeudy, what? And then they go out and ball out, right? You know, it's the guys that get overpaid, right? That have been the ones that have been disappointing at the receiver position, where the guys that do get paid and that were kind of looked at, man, is this guy really that good? Well, he's earning the money that the Browns paid him to play like. So they got rid of Cooper and he stepped up really big.
5,000-yard passing seasons for active guys. Patrick Mahomes, 2018, 2022. Matthew Stafford in 2011. Justin Herbert in 2021. And Jameis Winston in 2019. So there you go. That's the company for Jameis Winston. I want to talk about that Cousins revenge game. I want to dig into that a little bit too, because I think that's a big one. Jerry must have been watching the Fantasy Pros. He's asking Andrew, did he ever have a Hess truck? If you're watching the Fantasy Pros live stream, I had to explain the other day what a Hess truck was to Derek Brown, because he's from the South and they don't have Hess gas stations. I want to say in the New England area, you might have, though. Did you have the Hess trucks when you were a kid for Christmas?
I can't recall exactly. I mean, I've definitely seen them in IRL.
You understand their existence
in real life. But again, I'm obviously more familiar with like the jingle, the commercial that plays around Christmas time.
The Hess trucks here, and it's better than ever.
Yeah. So, and then I definitely seen them in real life, and then the jingle goes through your mind, and then you're on to the next game.
All right. On to the next game it is. So revenge game on Monday is done. Revenge game on Sunday is upon us. Kirk Cousins, 5.5-point underdog. 45.5 is the number, plus 200 on the Atlanta Falcons money line. Last time we saw Cousins, he threw 4 picks. Now, I know everybody's writing off Kirk Cousins. I feel like that is a mistake. I'm getting this feeling that, yes, Atlanta has their troubles. They are far from an imperfect team. I think there's going to be a great motivation here for Kirk Cousins to show up in that building and remind everybody of what he was able to do in that building for a very long time. I think this is going to be a more competitive game maybe than people realize. I'm actually on the Falcons side of this the more I have thought about it. And it's not because every revenge game matters. And not every revenge narrative is one that can be controlled. But when it comes to quarterbacks, it can be. Quarterbacks have the ball in their hand. Jerry Jeudy can't control his own narrative. He can ask as much as he wants. He can demand the football, but at the end of the day, he's got to have a certain amount of effort level to get open and figure all that stuff, and then everything has to work, and it did. But with Cousins, I feel like we are falling into a trap because it was so bad last week that maybe even he just got caught looking ahead to it. I think that could even be it too, or maybe that was on his mind and he couldn't shake it. And it hurt him in week 13. What are your thoughts about this revenge narrative game? Do you think that the Falcons are going to get blown out by the Vikings?
No, I don't think that at all. I could not agree with you anymore, Joey P. I think that you are spot on here. I think we're on the sharp side here. We're fading the demise of Kirk Cousins going to Minnesota because we already did this after week 1, right? Oh my God, he's washed. Put Penix in. What did they do? Went on the road, beat the Eagles. That's exactly what they did as 5.5 point underdogs on the road, outside, and they beat the Eagles on the road. So I think that this is getting way overblown. He had a bad game against the Chargers defense, one of the best defenses in the NFL. Oh, he sucked against Denver, one of the top defenses in the NFL. Oh no, he's horrible. Like he hasn't shown up against 2 of the better defenses in the NFL. Like, okay, he's a pocket passer. Yes, he's going to have up and down games. He had a lot of good games to start the year, especially against Tampa Bay. Now he's had a couple down games, but I don't think that this is any case to just totally write off Kirk Cousins. When you look at the team that he's playing, the Minnesota Vikings, all they do is playing close games. They don't blow anybody. Are we so impressed? Oh, they beat the Cardinals at home in the game that they should have lost. They didn't cover against the Jaguars, right? Is this the team that we're so confident is just going to absolutely blow out the Atlanta Falcons? I think that's also what's going under the radar. Yes, Kirk Cousins did not show up in Atlanta this week. You know who did? The Falcons defense showed up.
That's true.
For the first time all year, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. They got 5 sacks for the first time in God knows how long.
And Herbert had been playing pretty well too. That was a rough game for him. He got hit a lot. Was it 5, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They were held under 200 total yards for the first time. I mean, I don't know. Again, over the bye week, the offense didn't look like it improved, but it looked like maybe the Falcons were just, hey, let's get our defense going. Let's improve defensively. So I think that presents problems for the Minnesota Vikings. Remember, they're without their starting left tackle who got hurt a couple weeks ago. And what do we see from the Arizona Cardinals? Season high in pressure rate against the Minnesota Vikings last week. I think that you're going to see the Falcons have some pressure here against Sam Darnold. When you can pressure him, that's when he turns back to a pumpkin. When Sam Darnold is getting pressure, that's when he makes mistakes. So again, you're looking at all these games. I want to pull up the exact stat because I think that it's when we look at close games this year, what do we, who's the highlight of that, right? It's Chiefs, right? Chiefs sun running. All they do is win close games. The Vikings, 7-1 in close games this year. That's where they've been winning the majority of their games. That's why they haven't been as good against the spread, especially now as of late, because the expectation has been there. Oh, well, the Vikings should win. Oh, well, they didn't cover. Oh, they won, but they didn't cover the spread. So I love the Falcons getting the 5.5 points here on the road. It's in a dome. I think that this game, I'm not sure where I stand up from a total standpoint. Like, part of me thinks it could be a shootout. Part of me thinks it's not going to be. Maybe more like a 23-27 type of game. I think it's going to go down to the wire.
I would lean towards the over. And I know Sam brings up a great point here in the chat here. Sam's in here saying Cousins is a statue, though, Joe. He's going to be under fire. And you're right, he is. But it's also not a defense that he is completely unaware of. It's not a defense. It's like it's a defense that he never practiced against in his life. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, and I know it's a little bit different version than it was last year, but still there's a familiarity there. And I think the familiarity in a lot of ways is going to favor Kirk Cousins in this one. I think there's going to be some big motivation. And I think he's one of those guys too, that will take it personally that he played so poorly last week. And he knows. And I'm with you. I think writing him off is probably a bad idea. All right, we got more to talk about here. Before we do, I want to give away some free stuff. A signed Stephon Diggs jersey. That's right. That's one we're going to be giving away. And if you want a chance to win the signed Stephon Diggs Texans jersey, he don't need it the rest of the season. It's free, courtesy of our friends at pristineauction.com. All you have to do is subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel right now. Drop a comment below on any of our videos, this one or another one, or if you're watching this one back and you're not watching live, you can still drop a comment on it, and we'll be announcing the winner right here on the channel. So make sure you turn on those notifications, ring that bell till it goes ding, so you know if you are the winner of the prize of the Stephon Diggs jersey, and you'll never miss a piece of content here at Betting Pros. All right, let's get to some more here. I want to talk about the dead coach bounce because we got one this week. This number started off at 6.5, and now it's at 4. It was at 5.5 yesterday. Chicago is now 4-point favorite. I wish I locked it in at 6.5. I don't know if I did. I should have locked it on BP, and I did. Welsh and I have a bet. The loser has to paint their fingernails a la Caleb Williams on Out of Bounds next week. So I believe not only the Bears will win, but I got 2.5 points. I squeezed a couple points out of Welsh too. Caleb Williams in the second half of the last couple of games has played really well. I understand he's taking a lot of sacks. I know they're trying to get Bosa back. I get all that. But I just feel like sometimes the tents just fall in on a team. And I feel like that's what's happened here to the 49ers. And the Bears, on the other hand, I feel like they are now out of the trap. They're still not a great team, but they're definitely a team that seemed to really hate their head coach. Like, I think that was a very clear thing. The locker room didn't like him. The players didn't like him. Doesn't feel like the quarterback liked him. It felt like this is a true scenario where a bit of a revolt here between the locker room and the coaching staff. And I think a unique opportunity here to be on not just the points. I mean, the points is the easy way. Minus 110 is what you're getting right now, but plus 165 to win outright. I don't hate it either. Andrew, they don't have CMC. They don't have Jordan Mason. They're going with Isaac Guerrero. That's their running back. What do you make of this Bears San Francisco 49ers game as we're getting a little bit closer now and a little bit more information? Because when we talked about it Monday morning, Jordan Mason was still the running back before he went on the IR.
Yeah, this game is really polarizing because you have two of one of like the hot trends, right? Kind of going head to head, right? You mentioned the dead cat bounce, right? Which the Bears have already experienced this year so far after they fired their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. Now Thomas Brown has taken over. I do have some concerns about Thomas Brown now. I mean, he's been elevated twice in the same season. So he went from, I believe, quarterbacks coach to interim head offensive coordinator, and now he's going up to interim head coach. So I don't necessarily agree with the move to make him the head coach because he was really focusing on the offense. Like, and the offense was improved, but now he has to do everything, which is a lot to put on a guy's plate who originally opened the year as the quarterbacks coach, right? So they had a chance to move the special teams guy up. We've seen success with special teams player or coaches moving up to interim head coach, like we saw with the Saints, because they have their hands with all the players. Like, does he know the defensive players at all? Because like, that's kind of what I'm concerned about, where the defense is kind of the team. Like, it seemed like the defense was revolting the most against Eberflus because that's what he was supposed to be. That's his bread and butter defensively. Yeah. And that's what's really let them down. So I just think it's a lot of moving parts. So for that perspective, I do think that the Bears end up covering this game. But the thing that you have to look at, the other trend is you don't want to bet on teams after they play the Lions. No one has covered the spread after beating the Lions or facing the Lions. And what did
they lose to the Lions?
Yes.
See, that's the thing.
They did.
Did they really lose to the Lions? Or
well, it doesn't matter if they lose or win. It's just they played the Lions in a hard
they played the Lions,
game,
but
and they lost.
But to be all fairness, there, that second half they pretty much dominated the Lions, and the Lions had a ton of injuries, so it wasn't like the Lions beat the soul out of the Chicago Bears. Matt Eberflus beat the soul out of the Chicago Bears. So from that perspective, normally I'm 100% with you because those teams that get such an ass kicking physically and mentally in that building, but I don't think the Bears got that. I think the Bears left going, we just hung with the best team in the NFC, and we should have at least gone into overtime with them. I think this might be the fly in the ointment of that trend, and you've mentioned that trend. I think you're 100% right about that, and I give you a ton of credit because I think that was one of the ones that slipped by a lot of people, and you were on top of that, and you were pounding the table for it, and you were right so many times. I think this one might be different because it's the circumstance. You left town knowing you had it in your fingertips and you let it slide through. It wasn't a 50-12 ass kicking. It was a totally different scenario. So I do think the Bears are going to be plucky. I definitely think they cover. I don't think the 49ers blow them out. I want to lock this for him before he gets any worse, to tell you the truth. I don't like the trend of how this is going. Another West team we got to talk about too, the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle's now 7-5. The Cardinals are 6-6. I know we touched on this game Monday with some first takes. I don't know if you've been able to dig into this one a little bit more for the primer this week, but I feel like Seattle's just starting to roll a little bit. You know, they had that good performance at home. They really, contained Kyler Murray. They gave him problems. Then they go to New York and they play the Jets and they get behind, and yet they scramble around, find a way to win. Of course, the Jets hand them a couple gifts as well. Sometimes that just happens where you start to feel like the team of destiny, quote unquote. I feel like Seattle's the team of destiny in the West. Convince me otherwise.
Man, rewatching that Seahawks Jets game, I was waiting into the fourth quarter. Like, wait, Seahawks win this game?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was like, wait, it was more like the Jets losing the game, to be told. I mean,
Well,
the
that is
Seahawks,
also true.
the Seahawks gave it to the Jets on a silver platter, and Aaron Rodgers was like, nope, you can have it. You can have it right back. Give it to Leonard Williams, run for a pick six. Oh, man. I don't know. The thing with the Seahawks is whenever you feel like you're confident and then like finally they're going to right the ship here, they're going to take over. I mean, it's kind of how it's been with a lot of these NFC West teams, right? The minute that's the Cardinals, like, hey, they're locked and loaded, they lose 2 games in a row, right? The Seahawks, all right, they're playing this easy team. They're playing the Giants at home. They're going to take care of business. They lose outright.
Right.
So I understand the Seahawks definitely have improved over the last couple of weeks. The defense is definitely starting to buy into more of this new scheme that is a little bit tougher to learn.
And they're getting turnovers the last 2 weeks too. That's the thing about this defense, and those turnovers. When you and I both know we're old school New England Patriots fans. Those turnovers, they change the momentum of games a great deal. And that's what Seattle's been able to do. They've been able to change the momentum of these games and with those turnovers. And they did it against the Rams even before that.
I guess for me, it comes in. I still haven't really taken it deep because I think this matchup really is tight because it's 2 divisional teams. They just played each other. Like, I think this game is going to be really close. But I've been backing the Cardinals all year, and most of the time it's worked out pretty successfully. And the thing about the Seahawks, their biggest weakness is the offensive line is still a big issue, right? That's the reason why Ken Walker, why he's doing bad for your fantasy team. It's not his fault. It's because this offensive line is not opening up any space for him to run. So don't blame him. Don't be frustrated. But that's the issue. And the fact that we've seen Arizona's pass rush kind of come alive. I mean, Jonathan Gannon's defense has played really well over the last. They've shut down some really good.
It's the offense that I can have concerns with when it comes to Arizona. I mean, it's Kyler Murray's inability to elevate in these big moments because I feel like he keeps falling short in them.
Is that a short joke for Kyler Murray?
No, I'm not a tall person, and if it was, I'm allowed to make it because I'm not a tall person.
Well, I will say I have a little bit more confidence in the offense. I mean, last week, you know how many times the Cardinals punted? Once. Like they just didn't convert in the red zone. If those drives convert into touchdowns, then the Cardinals are blowing out the Vikings, which we never would have thought as they went on the road as underdogs.
Yeah, but they couldn't convert against Seattle too. I like Seattle on the money line. I know they're on the road here. I feel like they recognize they can put the knife in the heart and they're in. And in a lot of ways, you know, it's funny because I was in on the Seahawks at the beginning of the year, you know this, and I liked what I saw to them. And I was like, okay, but I'm worried because these opponents kind of suck. Like they're looking good against teams that really aren't very good. In retrospect, the Broncos ended up becoming good, but still. And then, you know, it looked like it was time to pay up and it was going south. And then to their credit, this coaching staff and this team rebounded. You know, it's amazing to watch Geno Smith and Sam Darnold and all these ex-Jet quarterbacks taking teams to playoffs. It's pretty spectacular right about now. That's for sure. Also spectacular, our Discord. If you haven't already, make sure you join it. BettingPros.com/chat. It's free, it's fun, and you can be part of our exclusive sports betting community on our Discord. Not only do you connect with expert handicappers like Matt Peralt, who provide free picks, but we got NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, player props, live betting. We got everything on there. So go check it out. And of course, right now is the time to join at bettingpros.com/chat. I want to get to the next game here that I want to talk about. Buffalo 10-2 going against the Rams 6-6. Obviously, you know, Buffalo put an ass kick and it's fun. Everything's going well. Do you worry at all that they fall a little bit into a letdown scenario? I think there was a lot of emotion and energy in that Sunday night game in the snow with the crowd beating up on a team that went to the Super Bowl last year. I'm not saying the Bills are going to lose, but I got to tell you, this game worries me a little bit. You got to travel 3,000 miles, right? You played Sunday night. I worry a little bit about the Bills. Just a tad, because I think theoretically this number should be bigger than it is. It should be 6.5, in my opinion, if you're just talking about these teams on a neutral field. And the Rams don't have a home field advantage. So I think it's very curious that Vegas has set it in the 4.5 range. What do you think of this? What do you think of this Bills matchup? Is there any room for a letdown here potentially? Not that they don't come out with a victory, but maybe you look a little sluggish in the beginning.
I don't think so. I mean, the Rams scored 0.5 points or in the first half against the New Orleans Saints last week. They scored 0 points against the New Orleans Saints defense last week in the first half. The Saints or the Rams are one of these cases of teams where they beat up bad teams, they take care of business when they're favorites, and they get destroyed when they're the underdogs. Like we saw it 2 weeks ago against Philly. They got destroyed. last week they took care of business in the second half against the Saints like they were supposed to. So I think that this is Bills win by touchdown. Maybe they don't get, maybe it's a little bit closer, a little bit more back and forth. I think it's giving credit to McVay and Matthew Stafford, still a tough out. They are playing on the road technically and playing on the West Coast, but
it's a travel out of conference game. Like there's a lot of weirdness in this one to me. Again, I don't think Buffalo's going to lose, but like if it was like 13-10 at half Rams, it would not shock me at all. Just saying, if they were sluggish a little bit,
I mean, the Rams are also coming back from the East Coast as well. They were in Louisiana last week playing the Saints.
Well,
not particularly well either. So,
but yeah, nothing particular.
I didn't think Buffalo's like, oh, we get to go to California and play in a dome where we can actually see where we're going.
Yeah, but I don't know. But see, that's the funny thing about these kind of teams, right? It's like they're built for that. They're built for it's cold with the Bills Mafia. It's snowing.
I think Josh Allen's okay. We're gonna see on Sunday why they should have built a dome. Okay, that's gonna be the main takeaway. It's like, oh wow, Josh Allen.
Well, that would be fun.
400 yards, 5 touchdowns. He didn't even have to catch a touchdown himself this time. He just threw it to his receivers. Oh, what do you know? Go figure. Amazing. Let's build a dome for Josh Allen.
That was so fun. That was absolutely so fun. All right. So when you're looking at that game too, any props pop up for you right away that you might be thinking about? Are we looking for maybe in that dome, Josh Allen running a little bit, maybe going over on some of his rushing props?
Josh Allen, I know that he's dealing with the hand thing. I know that he banged up his hand a little bit, so maybe not as much rushing from him. I think it's going back to James Cook. James Cook has been really boomer busty rusher this season. Last week, very much on the overs with him. Those cashed. And whenever he has a positive match, the Rams are not a good run defense. I would expect him to have one of his boom games. So James Cook probably going right back to the rushing yards over.
All right. If you're looking for props too, don't forget bettingpros.com/props. That's where the prop bet cheat sheet lives. It's a way to customize all your bets, filtering all the props by matchup, odds, and bet type to ensure that you get the most profitable of all opportunities. So again, go to Betting Pros, download the app wherever you get your apps, and look at the prop bet cheat sheet, or just go to bettingpros.com/props. I'm telling you, it is one of the best tools you're going to find. You find the best over under, you find the fantasy projection, and then the best place to bet it in. It's literally a cheat sheet, folks. It's fantastic. Go check it out right now. One more before we let things go. Maybe this is the ugliest game on the slate. I don't know, but I'm intrigued by it. It's got 4 outcomes written all over it. I could see this underwhelming in terms of total. I could see it going way over the total. I could see one team blowing out the other team. It's the Saints and the Giants. I feel like the Giants want to desperately lose this game, but I don't know if the Saints will allow that to happen at the end of the day. If this was in New Orleans, I'd feel different about it, but because it's on the road and outdoors, and it's going to be chilly in New York this weekend too. It's going to be Derek Carr out there in 30 degrees. This one is an enigma to me. I have sat with this game for the last 2 days, and I still don't have a feeling. I haven't seen a stat that I've researched that makes me feel any better, because when you look at New Orleans, you can't look at any of the stats previously because none of those guys are there anymore. There's no Taysom Hill. There's no Chris Olave. There's no MVS. There ain't nobody on that offense. And any stat that you might look at the Giants is skewed because you only got one game with Drew Lock to go off of, and that was against the Cowboys on a short week. So I don't take much out of that one. Has any research opened up any Pandora's box when it comes to Giants and Saints this week for you?
The Giants are a very bad team. Whether it's Tommy DeVito, whether it's Drew Lock, it doesn't matter. And you know who they just put on injured reserve? Their best player on defense. Their best player overall, I think, Dexter Lawrence. So seeing that, losing their defensive leader in the interior, the one thing that Giants fans could be excited about, besides Malik Neighbors getting 1 million targets for 60 yards, that's a gut punch to this defense. Yeah, this one, it definitely is polarizing, like you kind of described, Joe, and it's definitely hard to pick sides because, and Jerry's coming here in the chat, Kamara on all his props overs. That's what we talked about on the Fantasy Pros prediction show. It said Alvin Kamara over everything.
Well, that's what I did last week with Alvin Kamara too. And, that's money in the bank right now. He's the guy. He's the offense.
Yeah. It's tough because I think if you're just kind of simplified things, just whatever, take the Saints, lay in 4.5 points. Again, they're on the road. It's not ideal. The Saints have only been favored twice this year. You know what team it was against? The Carolina Panthers. And that's it. That's the only team that they've been favored to beat. And they went 1-1. One time they won, one time they lost. So never feeling great about playing Derek Carr behind, with MVS as his number one wide receiver on the road. But look, Derek Carr, he's not the worst quarterback in the world. He's clearly better than anyone that the Giants have to offer. You could just see a script where the Saints can run the ball effectively. They have Kamara. They're probably going to get Kendre Miller back. So some fresh legs against just a beaten down.
You're never going to let the Kendre Miller thing die.
I mean,
let it go. It's never happening.
No, Dennis Allen is gone. He's the reason why Kendre Miller hasn't been able to fire.
No,
I mean,
Kendre Miller's the reason why Kendre Miller.
When he's on the
always
field,
hurt, and apparently he's one of these guys that doesn't play unless he's 100%. That's what I heard.
Well, now it looks like he's going to be 100% under the Rizzy,
under
the Riz.
The Riz.
I think, look, if I had to pick a side, I mean, I'm not picking the Giants, so I would lay the points of the Saints as begrudgingly as it. And if anything, I just bet the under because totals in New York. The total last week with the Jets and Seahawks barely got there because of all the turnovers and special teams miscues. Like that's how that's what it takes for games to go over at MetLife Stadium. Like absolute insanity. So this game plays out.
There's enough insanity there built into this game where you can see it happen. Like I could see the ineptitude of both of these teams leading towards sloppy football, which can lead to points sometimes. Sometimes it leads to no less points. Sometimes it leads to a lot of points.
By principle, any game that features Derek Carr versus Drew Lock and the total does not start with a 3, I have to take the under in.
Real quick here, everybody who's watching, I want you to comment with who you think the MVP is this year, because that's been a big comment and discussion piece around everywhere. So if you're watching right now live, drop your comments in there. Who is the NFL MVP? Vegas is saying it's Josh Allen. I agree. I know the Saquon narrative has grown. I know he is projected to tie Eric Dickerson's all-time rushing record in a single season. 2012 is the last time we had a non-quarterback win this award. It was a long, long time ago, and it was Adrian Peterson, who also had, I believe, a 2,000-yard rushing season that year. So, Andrew Erickson, as much as I agree theoretically that Saquon Barkley is the most valuable player, I still don't think he's going to win this award. I think this is the Josh Allen year where the media gives you Josh Allen because they haven't been able to give it to him yet. And they're sick of Mahomes and he can't win it this year. And the Ravens have lost too many games. So even though the stats are better for Lamar, way better than Josh Allen, it's Josh Allen's right now. I see Mr. Credit going Saquon. I see Sam saying Hurts. I see George saying Lamar. George, I don't understand how it can be Lamar with all the losses they've taken. Like, I can't see that happening right now. So, Erickson, in your heart, who's the MVP? And in your head, who is the MVP to bet on?
I mean, I don't know if I feel comfortable betting on. I mean, hasn't the value kind of all been sapped out? I just don't.
Well, I got Josh Allen at 4-1 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because what I did was I looked ahead at the schedule and it came down to last week. And I said, do I think Josh Allen can beat the 49ers in Buffalo? Yeah, of course I do. And the question was, do I think that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens can beat the Eagles? I felt like week 14 was going to be the one where they parted. And up until Saturday, it was plus 125 for Josh Allen. And now, of course, it's minus 250 after that. And I knew that was going to be the divide. One or two things were going to happen. If they both won, it would have stayed tight. If they didn't, it would separate a great deal. And Lamar went to third because Saquon. So,
yeah. I mean, what do we know? Traditionally, the MVP goes to the team that has the best record. Usually goes the quarterback to the team with the best record. In this case, you could look at it as, okay, it's not necessarily the quarterback when it comes to the Eagles because the Eagles believe and the market believes that, well, Saquon's the best player on the Eagles. So first of all, the Eagles and Bills have to have the number one seeds in their conferences, right? And right now, I believe the Bills are still behind Chiefs, correct? They have a tiebreaker, but the Chiefs have a better record. So again, I don't think that holds. Yeah, I don't think that holds. I think the Bills are going to end up with the number one seed. And if they're the number one seed with the bye, then Josh Allen's going to be MVP. Like, and I don't think even if because the Eagles also have to get the number one seed too, right? They're not out of the woods yet. They're still behind the Detroit Lions. So we'll see what the Lions play on Thursday night. I know that game is a little bit sneaky in terms of the Lions are dealing with a ton of injuries. Can Green Bay get the upset on the road? I mean, I believe they beat the Lions last year in Detroit. So it's not impossible that the Lions drop a game here and the Eagles sneak in that number one seed.
I think Thursday is when they might drop. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little worried that they didn't get that extra rest. They're playing in a 7-day Thursday to Thursday schedule. Green Bay has been very good of late. They've really kind of gotten their crap together. I think it's a very dangerous game for the Detroit Lions. They lost a lot of guys defensively. A lot of guys are banged up. This is when they're at their weakest. I'm not saying they're weak. I'm saying this is the point where you'll worry a little bit. And I agree. Sal, our producer, put in the chat there too that that Sunday night performance when you're on, when the lights are on Sunday night and people are watching, or Monday Night Football, and you have performances like that, they become these iconic moments, and it sticks in the media. Again, it's a media-driven award. It sticks in their mind. I think it's Josh Allen's now, and I think it's over. Even if they're the 2 seed and they're a game behind the Chiefs, I still think Josh Allen wins. And you know what? Justin Tucker did cost the Ravens a lot more games. But, at the end of the day, they're going to ding Lamar on that. And I think there's fatigue. I think there's fatigue on Lamar, too, which sucks. It's not fair. But it's true. We see that all the time in every sport. They get tired of voting for the same person over and over.
I will say, though, in the defendant of if you're trying to make the – again, if I had to bet on somebody now, like – I would rather just bet on Barkley because I just don't think there's any value in betting on Josh Allen at whatever he's at, minus 225, because you paint the script where, okay, you talked about, okay, Buffalo, I have more confidence in them against the Rams, but they also have to play the Lions on the road. So what if, because if the Bills don't get the number 1 seed, then that, and the Eagles do, then that matters, I think, in the voters' minds. Well, the Bills aren't the best team. The Eagles are the best team. And who's the best player on the best team is Saquon Barkley. So if I had to make a bet right now, it would probably be on Saquon, just because I think it's
Saquon's the only value.
Yeah.
And Mason's right too. Green Bay, I know they played on Thursday, but it wasn't exactly a struggle for Green Bay. Detroit was losing guys left and right and holding on by the skin of their teeth.
I will say too, and I haven't really thought of the best way to approach this, but I was looking at MVP and Offensive Player of the Year, looking at running backs that have won offensive player, or the running backs in the past that have won MVP. They've almost always also won Offensive Player of the Year. So Saquon is,
he would have to break the all-time rushing record,
which
he would have to do that.
It's in the cards, though, right?
It's in the cards. It might be in the schedule. We'll see. But that's how it would have to be.
If that's how you kind of want to hedge yourself, if you bet on Barkley MVP and Offensive Player of the Year, there's a chance that he could win both. So just keep that in mind.
Now that's a special I'd be interested to find betting. And of course, make sure you're using BettingPros and using the app to bet them all. Make sure you hang out with us on our Discord. Again, bettingpros.com/chat. That's the place to go to be part of our betting community. And of course, if you're going to be betting props, use the prop bet cheat sheet. bettingpros.com/props. That's the place to find that, or just download the app wherever your apps and look for the prop bet cheat sheet. And of course, before you leave, make sure you drop a comment below, because we're trying to give away a Stephon Diggs autographed jersey thanks to our good friends at pristineauction.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel Betting Pros. Drop your comments below and ring the bell till it goes ding, so you know if you are the big winner. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Andrew Erickson, I'm Joey P. Happy betting, everybody. We'll see you next time, kids.
Majority of the losses are